Hello and welcome to Maximizing Student Employability Across Asia with Industry Microcredentials, a Times Higher Education webinar in partnership with Coursera. I'm Gitanjali Goswami and I'm Branded Content Manager for APAC at THE. I'll be moderating today's discussion. I'm delighted to be joined by a panel of experts from academia and industry and would like to request the panel to introduce themselves, and please click the raise hand icon located at the bottom of your screen to respond next. So maybe we can start with Professor Cheryl to introduce herself.
Hi, good morning. I'm Professor Cheryl Peralta, Doctor of Public Health. I am the Vice Rector for Academic Affairs of the University of Santo Tomas, Manila, Philippines. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much. And we can start, now we can have Dr. Aiguram.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Aiguram Raimjanova. I am responsible for international development, careers, and partnerships at Narkhoz University, Almaty, Kazakhstan.
Thank you so much. We can have Professor Hongtat to introduce himself.
Okay, thank you. Good day to everyone. My name is Yu Hongtat, Professor Yu Hongtat. I'm the president of the University Tunku Abdul Rahman, Malaysia.
Thank you so much. We can have next Dr. Yevgenia to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Evgenia Dayneka. I'm Vice Rector of Science and International Affairs at the International Information Technology University, Almaty, Kazakhstan. Thank you.
Thank you. We can have Dr. Nurgul to introduce herself. Dr. Nurgul, can you hear us? Okay, in the meantime, we can...
Yes, I can hear you. I'm sorry, I'm having some troubles with my connection. I'm sorry, I'll be joining with the video just in a second. My name is Nurgul Nalgozhna. I'm Head of International Affairs at International Information Technology University as Dr. Evgenia. Good morning, everyone.
So much. And finally, we have Mr. Bibin to introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bibin Shivas. I'm the Regional Director for Coursera for Campus in Asia Pacific. Good to meet all of you and good to be part of this panel. I'm looking forward to an exciting conversation.
Thank you so much. There will be the opportunity to put questions to the panel during the final 10 minutes of the hour that we have scheduled. So please feel free to write any questions in the box in Zoom, and we will answer as many as possible before the end. I would also like to request the audience to write the questions in the Q&A icon located at the bottom of the screen. A global report from Coursera, which surveyed over 5,000 students and employers globally, highlighted that industry microcredentials are in demand with students and employers. However, to fully address the industry needs and fill the talent pipelines with job-ready graduates for the future workforce, academia needs to offer the relevant programs for their students and alumni. This webinar, held in partnership between Times Higher Education and Coursera, will bring together a panel of experts to explore how microcredentials can supplement curricula and how universities can innovate and accommodate these changes through the introduction of industry microcredentials. So to begin, I would like to ask the panel regarding the current skill trends. So what are the skill requirements of the future, and where do microcredentials fit in? So maybe we can request Dr. Aiguram to respond.
Sure. Thank you very much, Gita. I would say that obviously, microcredentials fit in like they never have before. In Kazakhstan, we absolutely understand this. Because we take students away for at least 4 years. We put them in a bubble, but essentially we're preparing them for the world that we don't even know yet. The things are changing so fast that we need to enable our students, we need to prepare them for any future that may come, which means that apart from hard knowledge, which is obviously important, what will make students distinct is their additional qualifications, their cross-disciplinary education, and a set of soft skills that, you know, one can never succeed without. We all know them, right? We know that they're about leadership, adaptability, creativity, communication. But I would like to highlight analytical skills. Once we teach our students how to think critically and analytically, they are able to take on any job, any project, including having additional qualifications. I believe that in terms of micro-credentials, it is essential that we do not provide students only with one major within 4 years of the university, but also give them opportunity to select minors, not only from their specialty, but also from other specialties. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Also, I would like to ask you further questions. So you have mentioned about employability and also giving various courses that students can select from. So, so please mention how many types of micro-credential programs or courses are offered to students currently at a university?
Mm-hmm. This depends on what level of education we're talking about. Let's say we take bachelor students as an example. There are about 25 minors available to students across the university. And these are not typical minors either. These are things like fintech, for instance, or legal tech, or entrepreneurship module from Enactus. You know, I can provide other examples as well. Something very practically oriented, but also very much intact with, you know, what is trending in the world today.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I'll request Professor Yu Hong Tang to also share his perspective on this question.
Yes, thank you. I think basically this micro-credential actually provide us with a flexible arrangement in our curriculum, okay? And in fact, each of the course in the programs and all that can be actually offered as a micro-credential depending on the needs and especially those which are highly related to the industry. And the university can also work with the industry to come up with some credit hours of courses, micro-credential courses, where the input of industry is actually obtained and then together shape the or design the curriculum or the syllabus for the micro-credential and offer. And for this, it's also not limited to university students, okay? Because this one that would work with the industry, we can actually offer to actually the working professionals as well. Because they might want to actually think that, hey, yeah, this is something that I want to actually learn more because this is emerging field. For example, those related to blockchain, financial tech, AI learning, and many other things and all that. So in this case, it allows them to actually have this flexibility. And in addition to this one, some of the micro-credential may be offered at a higher level, for example, master level and all that. So for those working adults, professional, who have done some of these micro-credential, which are actually at the higher level, like such as master level, so later they can actually do the credit transfer, okay, so that they can continue with the official master program, but some of the courses, they have already taken it during their micro-credential time. Okay, so basically this is something, it is actually opens up many opportunity and allows students to have more freedom in choosing what is needed, of course, within the construct or within the curriculum requirement as actually needed by a Ministry of Higher Education, professional body or national accreditation body. But that actually definitely opens up more choices. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Now I'll request Professor Cheryl to also express her point of view.
Yes, it's very similar in the Philippines. We take advantage of the opportunity to offer options to our students through the elective courses in the curriculum. So in the Philippines, usually for most programs, there are minimum standards for the curriculum, but in terms of the courses and the number of credits, both in the undergraduate and in the graduate programs. But there are opportunities for flexibility through the electives courses. Now, for certain programs, they use the elective courses to allow students to take on micro-credentials and have them credited, as probably is the experience likewise of our colleagues in this discussion. But others have partnerships with industry, mostly for our IT industry, as for our IT programs, as well as our business programs. They have partnerships with industry wherein our students and our academic staff are given access to content of these micro-credential courses or micro-credential programs. And these get integrated into identified courses in the curriculum. Then our students now take on the option of paying for the exam itself, the certification exam. So this is an option for them, an enhancement, an enrichment of their credentials, so that when they graduate, they already possess the certificate of training or the certification for these micro-credential programs. And this has been appreciated by our alumni. We did get feedback from alumni in earlier years, seeing that the new graduates now already possess the micro-credentials being expected by companies and recognized by companies. So they don't have to take them after graduation. And that actually saves the company time and probably even money, and increases likewise the employability of our graduates, because when they finish the bachelor's program, they have these additional qualifications already. But of course, it is also recognized in the undergraduate program by considering this as extra credits. Also, they're given extra grade. Like for students in the IT program, if they pass the certification examinations, these are equivalent to extra credits for the courses where the content of the certification or micro-credentials have been integrated. So that's how we're currently doing it. And this is more common for programs in information technology, in line with the expansion of digital skills, particularly for essentially for all workplaces right now. Thank you.
Okay, so it's very interesting how you mentioned about partnerships and the engagement with the alumni also. So I have a question that have there been any alumni engagement with the current students, especially those alumni who have maybe taken up micro-credential courses, and they've shared their experience with the current students, which has also helped them to improve or enhance the student employability. So if this engagement has taken place, can you please share some examples, or maybe not from IT, maybe any other field that you're aware of? That was a follow-up question for Professor Cheryl.
All right. So, well, I believe this is also being done in business programs, wherein content in line with blockchain technology, for example, which is a new development in the field of business, because this is a new platform that can be applied to different domains. This is already integrated in the courses being offered, say, for our business administration programs. And with this, there is that opportunity to actually enhance the courses in the curriculum by having students undergo complete micro-credentials on blockchain technology, which are available in several platforms. I believe Coursera has that as well. And there are even universities, foreign universities abroad, who likewise offer some some short-term courses also on advanced business courses. And this helps our students get familiar with new business models, new business technologies, so that when they leave the school and enter the workplace, even if they might need some additional training in order to mainstream into the company, for example, they will find it easier to cope because the theories and as well as some of the applied cases that they've tackled in the undergraduate program will help them also understand better when they do the training in the company. So I think that's also one example that I can give. Although I'm also aware that there might be certain micro-credentials that might be useful, say, in the field of healthcare, for example. The rise of health informatics as and health and data analytics for health also opens up opportunities for integrating micro-credentials on data analytics and probably data informatics into courses that will help understand patient data and help individualize care for patients and probably even analyze the business productivity in a particular health institution. So when graduates of health programs complete their degrees and they have micro-credentials or they have elective courses that integrate micro-credentials from, say, company, because data analytics and informatics is, as was mentioned a while ago, it's very important to have cross-disciplinary training. This is actually a cross to data science programs and even IT business technology programs as well. So this now give our students in health programs the opportunity to interact with professionals from other programs and realize how they can work with these professionals in the future in order to improve healthcare service delivery. So I hope those are some ideas that might be useful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to ask Mr. Bibin to also share his perspective on where do micro-credentials fit in to help students to acquire the skill requirements of the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question. So from my perspective, and I think all of the panelists did mention how the academic models are also completely changing to include and bring in together the industry content into the curriculum itself, right? So the way we are seeing it is two things. One, when you think about the core skills that we're talking about, the new skills that all of the panelists mentioned, for example, digital skills are something that applies across programs. It does not matter if you're in a STEM program or a business program or some other program. So technology is changing the way things are being done. The data is changing the way things are being done. So there are some pockets which are almost horizontal. And then there are these specific areas like Professor Cheryl mentioned, blockchain or fintech. These are very specific areas for specific groups of learners, right? So when we think about micro-credentials, at least in our world, the way we are seeing it is, if you take the life cycle of a student, starting from they coming in from school to college and then going through their journey, let's say from an undergrad perspective, a 4-year journey or a 3-year journey, as they move along, we believe that when they come into their 2nd year or 3rd year is when they start to think about careers a lot more seriously. And that's a great space to fit in micro-credentials as part of their journey, right? I mean, because then they can start getting that dual credential, which one of the panelists mentioned, so that you're not just coming in with, let's say, a computer engineer, or you're not just coming out with a management degree or a business degree, but you're a business degree with specialization, or with a specialization in fintech, or with you're a computer science engineer with a specialization in AI. So we do have micro-credentials focused on data skills, business skills, and technology skills at a large classification level. And then, like Professor Cheryl mentioned, we're now working with a few companies to actually figure out on health informatics, what can we do? On accounting, what can we do? So we're now working on very specific substreams also. So that's broadly the way we've been thinking about it. And I think at the core of it, it has to blend in with what we are trying to do at an academic world, right? I mean, there's a lot of workload for students already. So it has to fit in well into their overall learning, workflow and learning psyche itself, right? I mean, as opposed to adding more workload. That's how we are seeing it.
Sure, thank you so much. How can the collaboration between universities and industry improve student employability outcomes and enhance the learning experience? So maybe I can request Dr. Nurgul to share her perspective about this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your question. In terms of how we do it at our university, so we are the International Information Technology University based in Kazakhstan. We try to make our courses, basically the educational programs, matching with the industry, because we have got specific industry companies who say to us, we are in a close contact, that they would like to have the certain skills and certain professionals when they enter to the job. And according to that requirements, we try to build our courses, our educational programs according to their needs. And when the student will graduate this educational program, he already will be ready to enter to that particular job. For example, we've got in Kazakhstan the major bank, which is called Halk Bank. So that bank, we are in a close contact, and they offered to us to open a special educational program which will rely on all the requirements that they look for in the specialists. So it's not only for the IT specialists, it's also for the financial IT specialists too. So we made the courses which will match, our academic requirements and what they look at the industry. So, and the students basically who will finish this educational program can easily go and find the job on that company. So we already have that case. And we truly believe that specialists now, they have to be more, based on the what industry is looking for as the specialist, because it's not only the hard skills we're saying about, but it's also the major point as the soft skills that we offer as the microcredentials too at our university.
Thank you so much. It's very interesting. I've mentioned about how there are courses that are also helping students to meet the needs of the industry. Also, can you please maybe share the challenges that have been taking place while collaborating with the industry, if you can share some? Dr.
Yeah. Huh?
That's a follow-up question for you.
Yeah, thank you. So, of course, this is the challenging point for both of us. So it's not just like, you just go and change whole your curriculum according what industry says. It's not like the 100% like that. You need to spend a lot of time to fit it according to your academic rules, because like the educational programs, they need to, like in Kazakhstan, we need to based on our ministry regulations. So I believe in any other country is the same, right? Almost the same. So it's like if industry says they would like to get the specific skills, of course, we do offer as not only as the, let's say, the major course, but as the minor courses too, because like at the end, they are not looking only for the specialists who know only the specific programming language, but that specialist has to, like fit on the company too, because like to be in the company, it's not just knowing your I don't know, the programming language or the specific any other skill, but it also try to be in a company to work on that and like being a social. So that courses we do offer with Coursera in our campus. And we were the first university in Kazakhstan who managed to use Coursera for Campus courses in our curriculum as for credits.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you
I'll
for that,
also
Dr.
note-
Norbil, for
Thank you so much.
calling out Coursera for Campus. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, I'll also request Dr. Aigaram to also share her point of view and what's happening at her university regarding this.
Regarding industry collaboration, right?
Yes.
Gita, was your question. Well, actually, we pride ourselves in being very practically oriented as much as we can. Obviously, as my colleague, Dr. Nurgul mentioned, we do have regulations of the ministry. However, we did have quite a liberalization of policies in 2018. Now it's the matter of how far the universities will take it. It requires flexibility and adaptability on our part in terms of building a curriculum. And it also requires, I guess, some courage and bravery as well to try to do things differently. So I will mention a few mechanisms. Mechanism number one, we do have so-called dual programs at Narcos. What does it mean? This means that a student spends, the regular 4 years of his studies, working towards his degree, but 8 months out of those 4 years are actually spent in the company. So this is what we do for hospitality students, for example. They go on to, obviously they're pre-selected, etc. Then they go on to, it's more than an internship, as you can imagine. They are in the hotel, but they continue taking courses. All their materials are uploaded to LMS Canvas, the system that we use. They are attached a supervisor from the base of the company, and they receive grades and credits as well. So it's a sort of, non-stop type of collaboration. We have a similar collaboration with one of the big 4 companies where students can go on and have a prolonged type of internship. But again, it's more than an internship, because what we do is we match part of the courses that they would have taken here, and instead we provide them over there. And we're trying to do more of that in other schools as well. And also we try to account students' participation, in moot courts, for instance, if it's lawyers, again, towards their degree. What helps us in this regard is the business council that we have at Narcos. Our business council is made up of top CEOs from national companies, from corporate sector, from NGOs. They meet once a year. And as a result, at the end of the meeting, they provide recommendations in terms of what they want from our graduates, not only Narcos, but generally. What type of gaps do they see? Last time, for instance, they told us that, this is, a very hot topic right now. Everyone was saying about micro-credentials, about micro-qualifications, about the need to upgrade your skills time to time. And they recommended to us, for example, that we create such short programs in ESG, because this is something that everyone needs right now. The talk of sustainable development is relevant to any company, and all employers, regardless of the industry where they work in, they need to be able to, know about the ESG agenda. Similarly, urban studies, IT sphere as well, obviously. Again, a lot of cross-disciplinary micro-qualifications, for instance, finance for lawyers or behavior of finance. It was very interesting because the discussion was very hot among the panelists in our business council in terms of what is the main sort of qualification and which are supplementary. So obviously the accountants, the lawyers, the business people, they had their own opinions, but they came to the same conclusion, which is that nowadays in the 21st century, graduates should be, well-versed in many of the disciplines, courses from different fields more than ever before. And last but not least, we support early employability at Narcos. meaning that it's not hard for students to finish up their degree if they received full-time offers, which a lot of them do, again, from big four companies, for instance. Yes, there is a debate in terms of should we keep them here as much as we can, but on the other hand, the whole point is to prepare them, to go out in the world. So we try to work around that as well.
Thank you so much. That's very interesting how you've shared the mechanisms that's taking place at university. And also the pertinent questions have always been raised about student employability and how that can meet the requirements of the industry, especially of the future. So in this line, I would like to ask that how can universities build micro-credential programs that encourage alumni to become lifelong learners once they enter the workforce? And I would like to ask Dr. Yevgenia to share her perspective on this.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the possible opportunity to share the opinion and to share the experience and to see the different opinion from different universities all over the world. And if we are talking about the credential, I would like to say that in Kazakhstan we have micro degrees and nano degrees, and the thing is that nano degrees, this is the process of mastering specific knowledge, skill, and competences in the short period of time. And if we are talking about the micro degrees, this is much bigger than the nano degrees, and micro degrees allows to perform a separate library function of the some of the production cycle along the industry needs. And if we are going to talk about the university, I would like to say that right now the training courses, the academic courses at the universities increasingly become shorter and more focused. And of course, we see the industry needs. We are talking with employees and making our degree educational programs demand with the industry. Nurgul actually explained one of the experience of our university in terms of working with the Halyk Bank. And also I would like to add that we begin to develop our educational programs for micro and nano qualifications on the base of the radio engineering, electronic and telecommunication departments. So because this department has more practical experience with employees and the industry. And actually, on the base of this department, we consider more working specializations like electrician, operator, and technician. And actually, on the base of the specialized subject, the university can issue the certificate, and this certificate is will be signed not only from the IATU side, but also from the side of the industry, from the side of the large employees in this area. So, and we base this certification on the base of our educational and scientific laboratory of the IATU, Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I would like to know Mr. Bibin's point of view for this question.
Yeah, this is about alumni and higher education.
Right? Yes.
So, yeah. So the way we see it, I think universities are preparing for probably, I think Dr. Ajay mentioned that for a job that we don't know what they are ready for, right? So essentially, I think one of the things that what Coursera for Campus is trying to do is build that culture of lifelong learning while students are in campus, right? In the end, the world is a space where learners have to become self-learners, self-driven learning. Now, the way, and now I'm connecting what we spoke about micro-credentials to this piece, saying that once we build that culture of learning within the institution now, and micro credentials are a very simple way of, figuring out how can uh, alumni, I mean, when they get into their careers after 3-4 years in their careers, they want to add another skill, then it's very easy for universities today to offer these micro credentials or certificate programs, etc., for exec ed, for example, or continued education initiatives, where the industry micro credentials can be very easily built into the piece of it, right? I mean, such that, so that, and that's a great way to engage with alumni also. So saying that, so let's say, for example, someone started their career, like we launched something called a career academy, where we had professional certificates as part of that for about 27 entry-level jobs. Now, let's say someone starts their career as a data analyst. Now, a few years down the line, they want to move into a data scientist role, which is an upward mobility of a job. How do they then prepare themselves? Maybe their alumnus can offer this as a certificate program where there are micro credentials offered from online, but also wrapped with some live sessions from the university, which makes it very powerful, such that alumni are able to get the benefit of content that is already there, but also have that relationship with the university. So these are things that universities can do and are already starting to do that, right? I mean, where they're building these short-term programs, which build into it build into it these micro credentials. In fact, we've a few universities who are, I mean, given the focus on outcome-based education nowadays, where we are saying that there's an outcome you want to achieve. Now, universities are starting to even rethink, how do I design programs for that outcome? And as part of the design of the program, they build these credentials as part of that, right? I mean, so like, for example, we're working with a few universities where we are saying we are developing and designing new programs, and of those X number of credits, can I have 40% of these credits which are built as industry micro credentials coming in from platforms like Coursera, right? I mean, so there are ways to do that, and that makes it easier. I mean, you may or may not do it for core programs, but you may be very easily start the journey with these alumni programs or continuing education programs and things like that. So that's how we see it from our perspective.
Thank you so much. And also, so a follow-up question for you, Mr. Bibin, is that have you observed any micro-credential courses in demand in the recent years? Maybe in Asia, we can speak about.
Yeah. So on that front, I mean, like what we've kind of focused on, right? I mean, and so maybe I can quickly share one slide to kind of make my point. So this is what we kind of looked at as potentially the key entry-level jobs that we are seeing in many markets, right? I mean, of course, it's slightly weighted towards IT. And when we think about career starters, they want to kind of start with these kind of jobs, and that's where our micro credentials are set up for, right? And then we can obviously bring in a lot of industry content for these professional certificates. And what we are now focused on, I'll just lay this out and then unshare, so I don't want to make it a pitch, but we looked at these 27 entry-level jobs coming in from top brands, right? I mean, whether in the software and IT space or the data space and the business space. So it covers a lot of ground with respect to different curriculums, different disciplines rather, and what kind of outcomes we are trying to achieve based on these roles, right? I'll also end with saying that what we also started doing is we started getting these accredited from some of these, and we started with American Council of Education, such that some of these micro credentials are being accredited by some of these regulators, right? I mean, so in that ACE from the US is now accredited this, so that they are seeing this as valuable enough to be part of curriculums and be credit transfer worthy, right? So that's what we want, the direction where we are going, where we are bringing in these micro credentials and bringing it into the curriculum itself for credit, right? That's our kind of narrative here. I don't know if that helps.
That does help. Thank you so much. And also, I would like to ask Professor Yu Hong Tang that how can universities prepare to rapidly implement micro-credential programs to fit in?
Yeah, in this case, because the curriculum is basically structured in a way that is based on credit hours. Okay, so for example, for one 4-year program, you may say it needs 120, 140 credit hours. And then each course, each subjects, it can be 3 credit hours, 4 credit hours. So in this case, what we can do is actually when we work with the industry, or even let's say like Bibin has just mentioned about Coursera, we can look at the actual learning hours, the actual learning outcome and all that, and find the equivalent credit hours that we can consider by the university. And then so in this case, then the slots that can be made available to actually consider the student for them to take these micro credentials. Okay, so this evaluations is done by the university to see how fit it is, and also depending on the range of the micro credential that are suitable, it depends on whether the slot is actually more for the particular program to enhance the program, or the slot is actually a free slot, free elective slot, meaning that allow the student to explore areas and fields out of their normal discipline so that they can actually be exposed to something new in the area or whatever. So that's why there's this kind of a flexibility lah, or there's kind of flexibility. So in this case, then you have the this arrangement with the industry, and of course working with various industry. All this one can be actually arranged in a much easier way. Okay, and of course, just now Bibi mentioned, Coursera has quite a number of courses available, which can be actually considered. Some of them are actually from industry as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now I will request Professor Cheryl to also share her perspective on this question.
Well, in terms of preparing the curriculum to take in micro-credentials, I think the first thing to do for a higher education institution is to look at the need. I believe it will differ depending on the community that the university serves, where their graduates usually end up working in. Like for the University of Santo Tomas, for example, we do have, well, in certain programs, we do have a number of our graduates who end up working abroad. So it is also important that before we consider micro-credentials to be integrated into the curriculum, we know that the work destinations of our graduates will recognize these micro-credentials. That's why sometimes it is probably easier for higher education institutions to include it as enrichments rather than replacement for the actual courses that are already in the curriculum. So they encourage their students and probably give extra credits if they pursue micro-credential courses, and also highlight that for certain employment opportunities, this will give them an edge in terms of getting employed easily or increasing their qualifications for the jobs that are available. But for certain programs, these can easily, as I mentioned a while ago, for IT programs, it's quite straightforward because IT faculty, IT administrators of academic programs, they know which credentials are recognized and by which companies. And therefore, as they craft the curriculum, it might be easier for them to identify these micro-credential programs, the content that will be integrated and may replace the original content that used to be created by their residential faculty, and this now becomes equivalent. It actually provides an opportunity for the university to take advantage of collaborative teaching strategies, team teaching strategies between the academic staff who serve as residential faculty of the school and industry faculty, or those who have actually created the micro-credentials based on feedback from some of our students who went through, for example, some course modules in Coursera, for example. They appreciate the fact that they're able to interact with faculty from other institutions and ask questions or listen to them through the video recordings that they prepared. So it's really looking at how the overall program can enrich the experience of the students and integrating these micro-credentials into the critical courses that will help achieve the final outcome prior to graduation. So I guess it's still a backward design. So we start with the outcomes that we need to achieve, and then we design the courses, determine the content, determine where micro-credentials can come in, either as enrichments or alternatives to the usual classroom engagement of teachers, and then assess whether after they've completed all these micro-credentials, did we actually achieve the outcomes we intended? And maybe that will help us see whether the approach has actually been effective. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's very interesting how you've mentioned about the way it works. So also, I would like to know that what needs to improve for universities. Maybe you can talk about your university, that when it comes to implementing the micro-credential programs in university, what needs to change or what needs to improve?
I must admit it's not yet that well known across all disciplines, or it's not yet that acceptable across all disciplines, probably because also in the industry, it's not yet something that they are looking for. We're very clear about IT, business, and maybe even health, already looking at enhanced competencies among graduates, which may be provided by these micro-credential programs. But there are also other disciplines that have yet to really look at how to maximize the presence of these micro-credentials. So in this case, I think education of the faculty and the program administrators, allowing them to navigate certain platforms, looking into available micro-credential programs, and see whether this fits into their respective program outcomes, may open up their open their minds or open their options to actually having these options integrated into the curriculum. That's the first. And then second, I think it's also helpful that academic staff themselves undergo micro-credential learning, because when they experience it, then they now have a better understanding of how it goes. How is it to actually learn from nano degrees or micro-credentials, and how do I now utilize that experience to improve the learning experience of my students? Because of course, not everything that you learn in a micro-credential program, you actually incorporate back into teaching. You'll still have to search into how it could best fit. So these are the challenges, I guess, especially with I think right now, our colleagues here will agree, we now have about 3 or 4 generations of academic staff inside the academe. So you have the very young who might be more adept in terms of the availability of all these alternative modes of learning. And we do have the more expert, more seasoned faculty who have been trained in the traditional curriculum and may not necessarily yet have encountered the presence of all these alternative pathways for acquiring qualifications. And these are the gaps, I think, that we need to bridge so that we're all on the same page when we do implement the curriculum that integrates micro-credentials. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now we're almost nearing the final 10 minutes of audience Q&A. So the audience Q&A, the questions are for all the panelists. So any panelist would like to address the question that I'll be addressing right now, please click the raise hand icon located at the bottom of your screen. So there's a question posed by an anonymous attendee, and the question is, do we see micro-credentials as a way to create an education as service model across Asia, allowing universities to remain engaged with graduates throughout their careers? So do we have any Yes, Dr. Igaram, please go ahead.
I would absolutely agree. And going back to your previous question, I think it's about a productive engagement among stakeholders, all involved in educational sphere. In order to really push this agenda forward, it does require commitment from universities, obviously, but also from the legislators and the ministries of education to support that sort of development. An example from our university, we did introduce this year a so-called skills development course for all students, bachelor's and master's degree students. So this is currently extracurricular, meaning it's outside their programs. So it really is about those students who are ready to take on more. And this is a year-long course that is running to fit students' time schedules. And the idea is basically to make sure that they know everything from, let's say, CV writing to project management to dealing with conflicts, etc. We're also trying to consider a so-called career development program, but that meaning it will be part of their academic educational programs, actually, and that is trickier. That is trickier because that means we have to deal with credits, with curriculum, something that Professor Cheryl has raised before. And in terms of alumni engagement, this last academic year, we tried to invite all of our alumni to a so-called NARHOS upgrade program. Basically, what it means is that it was absolutely for free for all registered alumni. It wasn't a long program because obviously most of these people work, but it was very comprehensive in terms of its structure, meaning they did undertake some IT courses to sort of enhance their development. They also talked about leadership in turbulent times, etc., etc. So basically, it was relevant to all specialties. 500 people have attended and participated. So we're looking to develop that on an annual basis, but obviously we'll be continuing to think about how best to engage with various groups of stakeholders. Thanks.
Thank you so much. There's also a question that is also addressed to you, or Dr. Igaram. A question posed by an anonymous attendee. The question is that you have mentioned behavior of lawyers as a professional certificate offering. Do the panelists see a set of professional certificates becoming an alternative to PhDs for some industries? Is the Dr. Igaram would like to address, or anyone? Or yeah, sure, she can go ahead.
Me, right? Sorry, I was
Yes.
Yes, so the behavioral finance module that we mentioned, was actually brought to our attention by our business stakeholders. We currently realize that, with mental health issues around the globe, especially among young generation, with the need to understanding the basics of psychology, we actually need to implement more of that into oral curriculums. We have also tried to restructure the general education courses that were required by the ministry to give to students. This is basically, basics of sociology, psychology, political science to first-year students. And we try to work with them via analytical text. But at the same time, we realize that, sometimes one semester is not enough. So maybe once they're more mature, they will realize that they need a particular skill set, and then they can come to university for that particular skill set. Currently, all the micro qualifications are not united under a single umbrella at our university. So I think this is something that we will be working towards. Currently, it's, exec does it sort of on its own. Bachelor programs are dealing with it on its own as well. But I think the more of that we see, the more coordination we will have across all levels of education.
Thank you so much, Dr. Igaram. Now we have a third question by an anonymous attendee. And the question is, in a world where education revenue models are changing, can microcredentials help universities increase their revenue? If so, what would you recommend to maximize this? Maybe for this, I would request Mr. Bibin to share his perspective.
Yeah, in terms of the way I think that this is an interesting one, right? I mean, there's always a balance between wanting to educate and wanting to charge tuition fees, right? I mean, so the way we think that there is merit to look at microcredentials as a revenue generation mechanism is one on the continuing education part, which I think I spoke about, where we are trying to figure out what can we help working professionals with in terms of to get upward mobility in their career. So that's something, maybe it can be a much more scalable operation in terms of reaching out to larger number of learners potentially who the university is not currently catering to, whether it's alumni or just general working professionals, right? I mean, there I think micro-credentials can play a big role. The other aspect, which is a slightly more controversial thing, is for your campus programs, if you build, let's say, premium industry micro-credentials into the program, does it allow you to place the program at a premium, and therefore potentially you look at it as a higher tuition fee for that program? But that's something, there's a lot of nuances to that regulation, whole bunch of other things. But in theory, I imagine if you can bring together a meaningful experience for learners, where you're building in the best of industry and the best of academia into a program, and they are making a choice for that program, possibly you could look at a premium there. But the obvious answer is the continued education program and the working professionals program, where I think micro-credentials have a very, very big role to play.
Thank you so much. Now we have the last 4 minutes, so maybe a quick responses to the rest of the question. There's another question again by an anonymous attendee. The question is, what developments and skills requirements in the future are we not currently training for at university? What gaps can micro-credentials fill? I would like to request the panelists to address this issue by pressing the raise hand icon. Any panelist? Sure. Yes, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I think if it's the current curriculum, we're able to update the content. So if an emerging practice or a new technology comes up, and the academic staff or the program administrators get aware of it, there is that opportunity to already integrate it into the current curriculum by including it in the content, or using the electives as options. I think micro-credentials might be more useful for those who have already graduated, but they have not studied this content, because at the time that they were studying, these technologies or these practices were not yet available. And therefore, there's a need to bridge that knowledge or skills gap. And that's where as we were discussing a while ago, alumni come back to the school if they find that the school is offering this kind of program, and they may be upskilled or reskilled in certain areas of knowledge or application, and this will help them retain their jobs or be promoted to a higher position. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And last 2 minutes, Mr. Bibin, please.
Yeah. Just kind of responding to that question again, from my perspective, is one of the things that we've seen, like the survey that you spoke about, Geeta, in the beginning of the event, right? I mean, Coursera did a survey with about 3,000 people, and across students, employers, we work with about 3,000 employers. So clearly, we saw that about 88% of employers in that survey said that professional certificates can strengthen a candidate's job application. right? So essentially and we also learned from those students on the survey who said that 76% of them would actually view a degree or view a selection of a university in a slightly more favorable way if they see that there is industry credentials built into it and things like that, right? So there is already a notion that students want to learn much more from the industry also as part of their journey in universities, and therefore we think we should continue to offer that, right? I mean, and it's not about the gaps in the university, it is about enhancing the educational experience, right? I mean, while probably we were focusing a lot on the foundational concepts, the core concepts and the core foundations being built, now can we extend it further to make it almost industry ready for that specific job, right? I mean, so even adding that as part of the journey. So in that sense, like I have had universities who actually divide their cohorts of learners into saying that I want so many of you could potentially becoming cloud certified, and so many of you to become cybersecurity certified, so many of you to become data certified, so that depending on students' interest, of course.
Right.
The fact is, by doing that, you're actually giving out very, very strong employability signals. And I think, which is one of the reasons why students come to campus also, to find a strong job and an employment and a career, right? So therefore, I think there is still value to think about it as part of curriculum, and then continuing that journey for alumni, and then as part of their lifelong learning journey.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much.
That's one thing.
Thank you. And that's all we have time for, I'm afraid. I would like to thank our panel for joining us, and to everyone in the audience for being here today. Everyone who's registered for this event will receive the full on-demand version of this webinar, which will be hosted on the THE website along with a summary article of its key findings for those of you who would like to revisit or share this content. We look forward to seeing you at future THE events. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.